Calling all beings. Calling all beings.
Can I get a man? Everybody, what is going down? I'm going to tell you what. We got a Bigfoot episode for you tonight, and ain't nothing I like talking better than Bigfoot. And Jim Myers and Sybilla know this to be true, and so does Debs and Bia. I'm your host, DJ, and we brought some illustrious co-hosts with us tonight. Seated to my, let me see, this would be my left on screen here is none other than the host, one of the co-hosts of Sasquatch Beyond the Outpost, Jim Myers. What's up, brother?
Glad to be here. Looking forward to it.
Me too. Thank you guys so much for agreeing to come back and do this when we decided we wanted to talk to our special guest tonight. And to your left is none other than the legend from Texas. Ain't playing no kind of games with you. She'll go out in the woods tomorrow night. And while you might be scared, she's going to be going, where Bigfoot at? So, Sybilla Irwin.
Yay, Sybilla.
Encounters.
Thank you, DJ. Happy to be here with you guys.
Thank you, ma'am. Below me right there is my co-host of a long time from the paranormal, the unexplained, a study of UAPs. We call her Debs. Good evening, Debs.
Hi, everybody. I'm excited to be here today. I keep hearing different things about national parks lately. It just keeps coming up.
Oh my God. We need to gather this group to do a missing person and missing 411 because Dave Polites has some of the most fascinating content out there. To Deb's left is my co-host from Calling All Beings True Crime Unsolved, because we do it all on Calling All Beings. You know what I'm saying, Sybilla? We're doing Bigfoot. We're doing UFOs. We're doing real life cases. We got calls from victims in Florida talking about wanting us to advocate for their stand your ground cases. Like, this is like why we started this. So, we doing it all.
One-stop shop.
Excellent. Well, it could all be tied together anyway. So why, right?
Yeah,
we might as well help as many people as we can.
Yeah, that's exactly why I started doing the true crime, is to try to help people. And that's why you're doing sketching encounters, and why you guys are letting people come on your channel to talk about what they experience. It's traumatic. People laugh at them. Same thing that Deb has dealt with in UAP Med when she was part of that, is people talking about a UFO encounter and people laugh and make fun of them. So that's why we're here. So it's an honor to be associated with each of you. The gentleman I want to bring on right now, first talked to him about a year ago. I've probably wanting to interview this gentleman for over 2 years since I saw A Flash of Beauty, which is one of my favorite series. He was in the documentary. He's also done a long form interview with them, which expounds on his experiences to a far greater degree than the movie was. And also he's been in some of their shorts as well. So this gentleman here has had some prolific experiences. He's a Marine, and you notice I didn't say former Marine because I don't want Rich to go, yo, I'm gonna slap you in the head. He's a Marine, and he's a former law enforcement at the federal, county, and local level. Party people, put those hands together for Rich Germeau. Come back, applause.
Yeah.
There you go. Thank you.
Yeah, Sybilla, we're missing an applause. We got to get something like that. Podcast.
I can send you this file, Jim, so you can have it. So no worries, brother. We brothers, man. So welcome, Rich. How you doing?
Nice to be here. Good. I'm doing well.
It's good to have you. I want to make sure I get these guys in there. So I want to start off with Jim and Sybilla, and we'll just kind of go around in a circle because you've had a lot of interesting experiences, and I'm interested to hear. I mean, just your first encounter on La Push Road blows my mind. Let me just ask you. All right, I'll start off, Jim. So I'm not going to put the pressure on you. How far, when those people were sort of recreating, let's call it recreating by the water, how close was that Sasquatch to them, and they didn't know it?
300 yards, maybe 400 yards.
Oh, so it was pretty good distance.
Well, kind of. I mean,
Yeah.
I was coming in on a road,
Mm-hmm.
and where it crossed at was where the creek intersected the road.
Mm-hmm.
And down to that creek, down to the mouth where the ocean is probably 200-300 yards.
Wow.
And then people were out on the beach down by the mouth of the creek.
No idea he was looking at them.
Well, he was in the brush, so
Yeah.
I don't know that he was. It's possible that he was, but he was certainly in the vicinity of a lot of activity. There was a mini mart store right next to there, just within 75 yards. So.
You come out with your honey bun there, Jim, and your Diet Coke.
That's why Sasquatch stood there, as he was looking for those honey bun people.
Exactly. He's like, let me get that.
Yeah.
So
but it's crazy, isn't it, how close they will come to our civilization?
Well, it changed Rich's life. That day changed your life.
Absolutely.
Right, Rich?
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, no, it's a large percentage of the investigations that I did related to sightings were close to residential areas. I mean, probably predominantly, most of them were around where people lived.
Mm-hmm.
Which
is not what people imagine. People imagine you have to go into Lost Creek wilderness, to find a Sasquatch. That's not the case at all.
Well, they're there, but they're also a lot of times right around where people are living.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The distance from your car when you got out that night to that one in the brush, what's the distance between that one for that one that you figure?
Well, initially when I seen it, about 75 yards, and by the time I came to a stop, probably like 50. But it had disappeared, before I came to a stop, so it already had crossed.
No,
so
I mean the one that screamed at you.
What's that?
The one that screamed at you when you came home.
Remember that was like had to be 20 yards from my driveway. It closer.
That's crazy.
I'm sorry. Yeah, Jim, go ahead, man.
Well, it's very interesting how many researchers will tell you that they have found evidence of Sasquatch on their property. Mm-hmm. And these aren't people that live, not necessarily living next to the woods where Rich was, but I'm not far from the woods here. I'm probably 4 or 5 miles from one research area that I use, but those distances don't mean anything to them. It's not like they have to physically follow you to your house. They know where you are. They know where you're going, and they prove it by showing up at your place, and they weren't running behind your vehicle. And so it's it's just Rich is a great example of a researcher who had close encounters at his place of where he lived. And I know Dave Pilates found a footprint in his yard when he used to live 30 minutes from me here. And so it's just Sybilla had him in her house, footprints in her house when she was at Crittenden. So they're not afraid to come into our space at all. I think that's just one thing about them is that people don't understand is they're not limited by physical distance or, they have the ability to get past all of that to find us where we are.
Yeah. How did they find Rich's house? Like this is kind of what got us talking about Rich on the last episode.
Right.
How did they find Rich's house?
I'd like to hear Rich's opinion of that.
Go ahead, Rich.
Well, we're dealing with something that is not operating under the same rules of time and space that we are.
Amen.
Number one.
Amen.
Secondly, it's a hyper-aware being where we have a depressed awareness or a subdued awareness, right? And that seems to be somewhat manufactured in the sense where we're not being allowed to be fully aware of our environment, or or the world that we live in, right? So we have a subdued perception. These things are, like I said, operating under a hyper awareness, I would say, where they seem to know a lot more stuff than we know about how things actually work, where they are, in the context of the earth itself, what it is, versus what our perception may be of what it is. We have certain limitations because we have a programmed belief system related to our environment and what's all around us and what's out there, where we probably really have no conception of what reality actually really is. And these things have these abilities that we can't describe or explain, and neither
or understand.
Neither can our classical science can't do it either. No. And so we know they're here. We know that they exist, right? But we're not allowed to officially know that. I have some ideas related to that too, but that's really what I have kind of focused and thought on, the last several years. Really is, what are these things? What is the real reason that this information isn't divulged to us and told to us? And I think what it comes down to is it's what these things actually are. And if this information was disclosed to us, meaning that these things were declared to exist actually by some sort of an authority figure that we would trust, it may, and it's likely to challenge the actual belief system that we live under and the system that we live under. And it may make it so, if we were to learn this kind of information, that it would jeopardize or put in risk the levers of control that we are under.
But as to how they located you, do you think this is a physical thing where they kind of were able to connect with you, with your presence, and physically walk to your house? Or do you think it was a portal-esque?
I really have no idea, other than the fact that they clearly didn't, like was said before, they clearly didn't follow me home. So they didn't track me related to my route or anything like that. It was clearly done through some other mechanism, which I don't understand and don't know. And I can only speculate, as to what methods were used to do that. Obviously, they did it remotely some way or another, right? So they were utilizing tools that we're not aware of in order to figure out where I lived and to come there. So, and they clearly wanted to demonstrate that as a show of some sort of force, I would say, or just, the fact that they were able to do it. They wanted me to notice, I would say, that they were able to do that, right? I mean, obviously it's something that I thought about, and it intimidated me a lot, I would say, that they were able to find me in that way, especially coming from a law enforcement point of view, where, you're thinking a lot of times tactically, about different things. And so you're always bringing that into the mix, where you're thinking tactics. Well, that leads to, how would they do this? And to me, and from my perspective, it demonstrates some sort of a power or an ability that I don't understand or I don't know, and in a way, initially I'm going to be intimidated by that, because like I said, it's a show of force. It's a show of an ability that is beyond what our capabilities are.
We've got so much here in the chat. I'm sorry. Did somebody say something? I don't want to interrupt anybody.
Well, I so understand what Rich was talking about, and it makes you take a step back, because you have to question, okay, what in the hell am I really dealing with? Because if you think of them as just a flesh and blood thing, then, and you travel 2 hours away from where you had your sighting, you feel 2 hours away, you're safe. And then all of a sudden other things start happening. And then that makes you step back and go, what the hell am I really dealing with here?
Yeah.
Rich, did it make you like stop doing research and just kind of say like, I don't even know if I want to be involved in this, or did it just make you like want to dig in deeper?
Well, I'll say this too first. So the incident at Harstein Island in connection to where I was actually living at that time is only about 1.5 miles, 2 miles away and about a 15-minute drive. So it's relatively really close, but you have to, it's separated by water. You have to go across the bridge and then backtrack around. It's about a 15-minute drive. Yeah, I mean, it scared me what happened at Harstein Island. And I was very intimidated. I was, just because of all the other factors that went into that incident and everything related to the everything that I was feeling and, the intense projection that was being put on me related to dread and fear, time standing still, and all these things in relation to the actual sighting itself and the encounter. It was clear to me, again, thinking in a more tactical sense as a law enforcement officer, that it was all part of one big thing where it was all kind of planned in a sequence, like a script almost, to where these things wanted to get maximum effect related to the intimidation. And I clearly think that in my instance, it really was an intimidating type thing to get me to, change behavior, to do something different, because at that time, I was operating, under fear, especially after that, when it gets in your face. But I didn't know what I was doing, really. I didn't know what I was dealing with. I was looking at it from a standpoint that I could be in control and dictate the situation, set the situation up the way that I wanted to do it, and I was being shown more or less that I wasn't in control. I wasn't dictating the situation, and so I was being slapped back in the face with these traits that I was operating under and how I was dealing with things. And I really wasn't, at that time, for what I saw and what I encountered, I wasn't really prepared for it in the sense to be able to process that, in a functional manner where it was going to benefit me or going to assist me in moving forward and taking another step beyond and taking it there. I was more of in a fight or flight type of situation immediately during and after that. And very fearful, I guess you could say, intimidated. And somebody like that's in that state is not really that predictable, could be dangerous in some circumstances even. And so I wouldn't say that I would be ready to, evolve that situation into something better. Yeah, I mean, I did, start kind of stepping back from that. I think a lot of the circumstances that surrounded that event really made me have a second thought about the whole thing. It wasn't really safe or not, and there was something in me that was pulling me away from it, and telling me not to do it. It wasn't really worth it, that it was dangerous. I mean, what I experienced, would make anybody believe that it was dangerous, I think,
Sure.
In that situation. I mean, just the way that from start to finish, and it was built up, and then everything that happened afterwards, I mean, that story went on for some time, really, beyond that event, where I was being shown these things where, yeah, they could find me. They were showing me that they knew, that I had a family, I guess you could say. They somewhat interacted with my wife after that, where they threw rocks into the yard. And so that was obviously what I thought. It was like, oh, they want me to realize that they know I have a family, right? So,
and they know when they're outside. They know where they are. Yeah.
These things know everything, and that story has kept going and has gone on even to where I live now, and stuff that happens here regularly, seasonally. I mean, we have all kinds of. There's some people that are living on the property here now that do a lot of audio recording and stuff, and you wouldn't believe the crazy stuff that they've recorded out here at night. All kinds of crazy things, not just Bigfoot related either. It all seems to be connected, but a lot of EVPs.
There we go.
I mean, just for an example, they put audio recorders in some of the outbuildings, like in the shop, throughout the night. And there's power tools and stuff in there and different things, but generally quiet. But they record all kinds of sounds inside. They've recorded piano keys. They've recorded some sort of language that is not discernible, speaking certain phrases and different things that just come out of nowhere. We've recorded what sounds like little girls' voices up in the woods in the middle of the night saying stuff like "come here" and different things like that. Heard all kinds of cracks, pops, weird metallic sounds. Recorded them. Heard what sounds like a big thud sound, like something of massive weight going into like a clay bed, just a big thud.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Stuff like that. Lots of what you would characterize as tree knocks, like I said. Lots of bangs and pops and different types of noises and stuff walking through the driveway in the middle of the night, right out here. Like you can hear the footsteps, bipedal footsteps. But we don't really know what it is, but it seems like there's a whole lot of phenomena all wrapped into one thing that are all associated. And Bigfoot seems to fall into this thing where it comes into the mix. And it seems to me that a lot of this phenomena is occurring. It's subject to the environment, meaning that the location seems to be important too. And it may be that where I live now has some sort of electromagnetic energy or some other sort of energy going on. And it may be that a lot of these reoccurring Bigfoot locations where you have sightings have the same type of thing happening, right? So where I live here in the Pacific Northwest, where in the Olympic Peninsula, we have a lot of ley lines and what you would consider like vortexes and different things where there's a lot of odd phenomena that occurs. We have a lot of ghost activity up here and different type things like that. And a lot of haunted houses, and Bigfoot just seems to be one of those things in the mix that just comes up.
Well, the same is true at the Montana Vortex. They have everything that happens there. Bigfoot, apparitions, UFOs, everything happens on that property. So I think you're right, Rich. It's all part of a bigger thing that we don't understand. And I think for the people who are in the other side of this camp that we're talking about, I think what makes it hard for them to believe is that we're dealing with science we do not understand. And it may take us 20, 30 years, if ever, that we understand the science that's being used. It's all science. Science is just reality. It's science, but we have no concept of how they do these things. And because we have no science that can come close to explaining it, we just discard it. We discard it completely and say, it can't be real. They can't be doing that. And to me, it's just denying a reality we do not understand. And I get that, but that's disingenuous. It's not honest research, in my opinion. If you just refuse to consider the things that you do not grasp and just say it's not real, it doesn't happen. And you know it happens. I know it happens. Sybilla knows it happens. I'm sure DJ knows. It's just, I cannot explain it. I can't explain it, but I've seen it. I've heard it. I've felt it. So
Jim, it's like when you say it defies science, right? So science, there's what we know and what we don't know. We still don't understand how the pyramids were built.
Yeah.
We don't understand how those big boxes in the Serapeum, those 100-ton, they look like coffins, right, Sybilla, with the lids? The lid is 30 tons.
Yeah, they're massive. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
The box is 70 tons made out of one piece of granite that was transported 500 miles and put underneath. We don't know how they got. We don't.
And it wasn't slaves. I can tell you right now. Yeah, it wasn't slaves. That did that.
Yeah. You know what? Ben Van Kerkwijk from Uncharted X is his name on Twitter. He was just on with Joe Rogan. He said the reason these aren't in a museum is because we don't know how to get them out of there. So we don't have to got them in there.
We can't move them. No,
we don't have the capacity.
We don't have the technology to do it.
Rich, you could take a T-square and put it up to these lids, and they're perfectly square.
Yeah,
and they don't know how they did that. He found a vase in there that is 4/10,000ths of an inch in circularity, in flatness, and then there's two little bosses like to hold this vase, and it was found in a tomb that was 14,000 years old. How the hell they do that? So I say all of this to say, like when Deb and I talk about UAPs, and they said, "Oh, this defies physics." It's known physics because
Known
we
physics,
don't know
correct.
all there is to know about physics. Just like we don't understand how some of these anomalies, how they all come together. What Rich is talking about, EVPs, you know, and by the way, for the chat, we see I've starred all your questions. We're going to get to all your questions, but I want to get the panel to go around. I want to get Bia in there and Deb's in there. And then after that, we'll go to your questions and ask Rich and the panel what you have. Because you guys have put great questions in the chat tonight. So I love it. Bia, go ahead. What do you have for Rich?
So, hi, Rich. So I was going to ask, how long ago was your first experience? And do you think what you're describing is like a freeze-like feeling that you felt?
25 years ago. What do you mean freeze-like thing? What do you mean?
So we spoke. So when you were saying that you were scared, that time was kind of standing still for you, would you describe that as like a freeze in time? Or
it almost felt like you were in a vacuum, like there wasn't time during this thing was happening. It was a very strange feeling. And, you know, one thing I want to go back on too is that my motto has become this, I would say, that nothing is true. Like the fact that we live under a system where the information has been dictated to us, that history has been dictated to us, and the victors have decided history, right? So we don't know what the true history of anything is. And everything that we do know, you have to consider that it's been manipulated for the purpose of control, that whatever information we have been given has been given to us so that we would not, it would distract us from finding out who we actually really are, right? And what our actual purpose is for being here, so that we could be under a system and we could be managed and controlled like property, essentially, right? And so I think that that's the situation that we were under. You know, and look at Bigfoot compared to like UFOs, UAPs, ETs, and stuff like that. You know, our government seems to be a lot more willing to divulge information related to that topic versus Sasquatch or Bigfoot.
Yeah.
And I think the reason why that is because they can dictate those circumstances. And we've been under a prolonged psychological operation when it comes to outer space, when it comes to extraterrestrials, UFOs. You can consider Star Wars, you know, Star Trek, and all these things that we've been programmed with this information to have a belief of what this all is and what potentially is out there, versus this stuff. And that can be controlled, right? It just maintains that we're still stuck in this environment, you know, in this a speck of dust in this vastness, right? We're very insignificant under this belief, versus Bigfoot and Sasquatch, which seems to be, you know, something totally different, maybe associated with that stuff, you know, to a degree, but it may be that the information related to Bigfoot in particular, it's that if we were to know what this thing actually is, what it's actually able to do, where it might come from, it may jeopardize this control structure, right? It may put us into a situation where we might be afforded too much information, too much knowledge. It would lead to questions that probably cannot be answered because not because they don't know what the answers to those questions are, because I assure you that they know much more than we could ever know.
Then they're letting on, correct?
Yeah, of course. But if we were to find out what this information is by them telling us what it is, it would empower us too much. It would give us too much information, and it may change our overall perspective of what life is and what our purpose and of existence is. And it may make it to where our values may change, and it may make it to where we're not able to be controlled under a token system any longer, right? Where we're not going to go out and do the things that we were doing before so easily anymore, right? So I would see it that the reason why we don't know about this, it hasn't been disclosed to us, and likely it won't be disclosed to us, is because of the ramifications related to that disclosure. And the ultimate purpose of this system is for us to remain under control. right? And anything that jeopardizes that control or empowers us too much individually is going to be withheld from us.
Maybe
And
we
par-
should be asking Bigfoot
So
to tell us.
part of
Well,
part of
that's an
the
interesting
problem
question.
part of the problem is that so with UFOs, there are questions being asked. You have the DOD involved, you have a lot of people that have seen things. So you guys that are out in the woods that are researching Bigfoot represent a very small group compared to the larger population that have seen UFOs. We're talking about military guys of all the different services, even Rich's service, the Marine Corps. There's been two major sightings. One that happened in Indonesia with that guy. He's in Colorado, Jim. I can't think of his name. Oh, Michael Herrera. And then the guys that were out in, I want to say it was 29 Palms down there in California. So out on the range. So there's a lot of questions being asked. So now they're forced to answer some questions. When you talk about a potential program that would involve Bigfoot or Sasquatch, we're talking about a Department of the Interior SAP. And every single person that I know in DOD, well, now it's Department of the War Department. Anybody I talk to, nobody knows about any SAP that's involved in the Department of the Interior, which runs national parks. Why? Because we don't work in the Department of Interior. So we are not asking questions to the right people and putting enough pressure on them to make them answer. Do I think they know it all? I think it's probably like UFOs. They don't know it all. They know some, but we've had CIA guys on the program. We've had Lou Elizondo. We've had Jim Semivan. We've had John Ramirez. They don't believe that anybody really understands this phenomenon. Do they know more than we do? As Rich said, 100%. They know more than we do, but they don't know it all. And I don't think they know it all about Bigfoot, although I feel like they probably have harvested more than one of their corpses.
You know, one thing I would like to add to this is you have to realize related to any government in the world, the most important thing to them is that they control what we believe, that they control the narrative, right? That they control what we believe. Secondly, related to Bigfoot, I would tell you this, is that with these things, capabilities and the things that they're able to do, that is going to be directly related to, I would say, the weapons and technology industry. They're going to want to find out as much as they possibly can about these capabilities so that they can, try to reverse engineer it if possible and utilize it in weapons industry to give them some sort of an advantage.
No doubt.
Right. So I would say that relate to Bigfoot in general, that they would exhaust all resources related to this topic to be able to find out as much as humanly possible about whatever these things are, where they come from, what they can do. And then they would try to replicate that and utilize it in the weapons industry or the technology industry, and ultimately use that information to keep us under control, right? Ultimately, whatever, because information is power, right? Mm-hmm. Knowledge is power, right? And the fact that we don't know what's true and what isn't true puts us in a situation that we're easily controlled, right? And I keep saying that and talking about that, but that's where this investigation really has led me to, because to me, it's not conceivable that there's any possibility that this is a thing that they don't know about, right? Because the sightings the encounters have happened over such a long period of time, right? The knowledge of these things being in existence. I mean, whatever they tell us really doesn't matter anyways, because we know what we know. We know that these things are real. It makes us ask questions. It opens up things. It creates doubt in us related to a lot of things, because, once you have an experience like I've had or many other people have had, it takes you to a place where you start questioning things in general, right? You get to a point where you're wondering what else you haven't been told, right?
Yeah,
what
exactly.
Being withheld from you.
What
right?
else is out there that we don't even know about?
Exactly. And I would say that our authorities, at least at some level, know a lot more than what we know, right? And they're not telling us this stuff for whatever reason.
So if I can take that as true, for the purpose of this discussion tonight, if we can take that as true that they're withholding and they don't want us to know, I'd like to frame the discussion based on your experiences and also that of Sybilla and Jim, because you guys, the three of you, are really the experiencers. You the primary one we're interested in. But let's say we take for granted that yes, they're trying to control what we know, what we think culturally. What I'd like to focus in on, I think what the audience would like to hear is about your experience, because you three represent a very small number of our population that has experienced this. And I know that the three of us, Bia, myself, and Debs are here because we are fascinated with what you've seen and what you think about, even if the overall framework is that the government is controlling something. We want to hear about your experiences. So with that, let me get Debs in there because she hasn't had a chance to ask you a question, and then we'll get to you guys in the chat because you guys have awesome questions tonight. Go ahead, Debs.
I had a lot of thoughts while I was listening to all that, of course. One thing I wanted to comment was that, we have night vision goggles for a reason.
Yes.
People are paying attention to the technology that they're gleaning from these encounters, I think.
Thermal imaging, yeah, all of that.
When it comes to UAPs, we have directed energy weapons now. Like, that's a fact. Like, that's not a coincidence, in my opinion. And also, you were talking about something that related to reality, and I just want to point out to people that there's a good book called The Case Against Reality by Hoffman that very much touches on that.
Donald Hoffman?
Yep.
Okay.
Just really touches on how we only see very little, and that helps us survive. So obviously these creatures or entities, whatever you want to call them, are seeing more and hearing more, and that helps them survive. And we're just not in that camp with them. We're surviving on a different wave, But, my question is, why do you think it was you that had that experience? Because when it comes to UAPs, we often look at the experiencer because we notice some people have those experiences and some people don't. So why do you think you had that encounter? Because, and obviously people they may have more of a shock response than actually a fear response when they have these encounters. It sounds like you may have been in shock just based on your description of everything being very still. It's like a psychological phenomenon that happens when you go into shock. So other people have good experiences, and I don't really know why some people go into shock or have that unfortunate experience and other people have good experiences. But why do you think it was you?
Well, I look at it like this. I'm talking about the big picture, all the events, meaning the two sightings, the different things. And I've come to conclude that I've looked at this as Bigfoot in particular is consider it like a glitch in the matrix, a white rabbit. For instance, it's something that's put out there in front of you that doesn't make sense. And it's designed to get you to start questioning everything, right? And to consider that things are maybe not as they appear. And so you start to chase that rabbit, right? You chase that white rabbit and you start to look, and then you start to see the terrors in a lot of things, right? Where the holes in a lot of the story exist. And, for me, I think overall it was meant to send me on a path to start picking apart this reality that we think we're living in, right? And to make you realize that maybe things aren't as they appear. Maybe things aren't as you've been told. Maybe the picture is different, right? And maybe it's meant that some of us need to go on these paths and to find out these things and to see these inconsistencies and to start digging into these holes and ripping into them and going out and looking, and so that we can tell other people and start informing them, as a support mechanism for people that have had parallel experiences, or just so people start to make considerations about things. Because I don't know about you, but it sure seems to me that times are different now than they were before. And we seem to be moving in a direction where things are going to change, right? There's going to be some perceptive shifts that occur, meaning that people are going to start looking at the world differently and their environment that they live in differently than they did before, right? And maybe that reason is because we're at a point now where we're pretty primitive, right? Consider the fact that our lives operate off of using money, right? And consider that a lot of these higher beings are way beyond that point. And you know, the system of money is a pretty primitive concept, considering these advanced beings. Look at Bigfoot. They don't live with money. They don't use money, right? They probably don't even think about money. You got to realize that Bigfoot lives in the now, in the present time, right? And because of that, they're able to see things differently and have access to all of this power that comes at the present moment in the now, right? Because the future and the past is over. It doesn't matter anymore. And the future hasn't come yet. So there's no power in that, right? All you have is power in the present moment. That is the time where you have the power to act and create, is in the present, right? Where the past and the future, you don't have any power in either one of them, right? So Bigfoot exists in the present moment. And because of that, they have access to all this information and knowledge, and they have these abilities and these powers to act in the present moment that we do not, because we have a hard time focusing ourselves into the present moment. Humans can't even hardly quiet their own mind down, right? They can't stop it.
Exactly.
They can't operate in silence, right? And really take in what's around them, in the environment around them. These things have this ability, right? So I would think that this whole instance has given me a pause and allowed me to start seeing things that I wasn't seeing before. It's kind of widened my field of view, right? It has heightened my awareness, like raised my awareness higher, right? So that I see things now that other people don't see. And I'm not talking about, seeing make-believe stuff. I'm just talking about seeing things in the environment, seeing things in people's behavior, seeing things in the script that's being played out in front of you, right? And different things that starts to allow you to pick out things that don't make sense, right? Or to see things that maybe you weren't supposed to see, right? Things in the peripheral. And that's what I'm saying. That's, I think, is the purpose that I probably had these encounters. And so that I could pass on the information that I learned and to try to help people to maybe see things differently, or to open up their perspective a little bit more, or to open their mind a little bit more.
Rich, this is what I was thinking about when you mentioned money, because I was thinking about going on one of Jim's expeditions, and if I could give him like some polished stones instead of money, and then like see if that would.
You don't have enough polished stones, my friend.
He's like, no, I want cash money, brother.
It's true. It's true, though. That system, you're right, Rich.
That
system is a very primitive. Money might as well be leaves or stones or something like that.
Hey, but Jim, I saw Thunderheart the other night, and Val Kilmer, like he gave up his Rolex, and that older Native American man gave him a polished stone. He's like, here you go. And he's like,
think about all the other things that money installs in you, though. Greed, jealousy, envy, all of these bad things, right? All of these very low frequency mindsets and behaviors, competition with one another rather than working together, right? Competing, right? So it puts us all down, and it puts you way down in a lower place, right? To where you're not in a higher frequency. You're not
in the baser parts of our nature.
It's
very
true.
low, very low. It keeps you down there too. It imprisons you. It's a trap. Like it's a prison that keeps you down there, right? To make it so we can't have relationships with these other things that we don't know about, so that our perspective is very tunnel. It's very focused, so where we're not really seeing what's out beyond those lines. We're living in this material world, right?
It's true. It's true.
And money provides us the means to acquire things that we think we need. Bigfoot doesn't have any of those things.
Right.
They don't need any of those things.
No.
So
they wouldn't understand the concept of money. They wouldn't understand.
I think they understand it, but they don't live in that world. They're so far beyond it. Their frequency is so much higher.
Yeah, they're not slaves like we
They're
are.
not slaves like we are, not at
No,
all.
they've evolved beyond that.
Yes.
Right? They've evolved beyond that. We're still way back there. They're way above us in that context.
They understand the barter system. You know, they just don't value, like, I don't think they understand the barter system. Obviously, a lot of people have experienced that. But they don't have a sense of, oh, I need to build up this to be able to use it for that. You know what I mean? Like, they just think of, you gave them food, they're going to give you something that they think you will also like, the way that you gave them organic apples or watermelon or whatever the hell it
But
is.
even in those gifting things, we have no idea what they're thinking. We have no
True.
idea how they're interacting with us from their level. We see it from our level, but
Maybe they're only doing that to accommodate us in the mindset that we're in, right?
yeah, they're just humoring us in a way.
Because they know that's what we understand.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. I'd like to give this to the panel, the three of you, and I'll start off with Jim. What positive behaviors have you heard of from experience or friends of yours that lead you to this sort of higher relational situation between that human, whoever that was, guy or gal, and the Sasquatch? What
Healing.
positive interactions have you heard
Healing.
of? Yeah, interesting.
Healing people of, in some cases, terminal illnesses. The person didn't ask for it. They didn't even know that was available to them through the Sasquatch.
Mm-hmm.
But the Sasquatch made that choice to heal them for their own reasons. I mean, obviously it was a benevolent move towards us, but we have no concept probably of everything that was involved in that decision they made to heal those individuals.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I'm talking dramatic healing.
Change in health.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And so it's when you realize that they have abilities like this, that in our own concept we would only attribute to God, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And yet Sasquatch is doing these things. It brings a lot of things, as Rich was saying, it brings a lot of things into question about where does our concept of God even come from, you know, and who God is, or if he is, or, you know, all these
Mm-hmm.
things that we're such products of our upbringing and education, which was all dictated to us. So yes, like you start to question, you could start to question everything, but as far as positive, I would say, I'll just put that out there. Healing from my perspective is one positive interaction that made a dramatic difference in these people's lives, and they were never the same.
What? Well, just to follow up, what makes them think that Sasquatch is the one that healed them? That particular Sasquatch.
Well, in none of the cases did they see the Sasquatch, but they, in the most dramatic case, which happened about 10 miles from here, it was a group of women who were out camping on a women's squatching expedition, if you want. And one of the women was dying of cirrhosis.
Mm-hmm.
And this was going to be kind of her last hurrah, and extreme pain, extreme discomfort, didn't even want to be there, didn't want to go. And what interesting thing she told later was, as they were getting ready to go to bed, she went over to relieve herself next to a couple of trees.
Mm-hmm.
And when she finished and turned around, one of the trees wasn't there anymore. And so she believes it was a Sasquatch, and that maybe the Sasquatch, whether it be a male or female, I don't know, smelled her urine and figured out that she was dying.
Wow. Yeah.
That's her thinking anyway. And so during the night, something approached the tent. She heard it approach the tent. So whatever it was, walked up to the tent, stood over each of the women from outside, knew where each of those women were in the tent, and it walked around and it tapped on something, and it went around to each of the women and then came back and stood over her and stayed there until she asked it to leave. She got afraid and said, "Please leave," and it left. and then
Wow.
she fell into a deep sleep that she had not experienced in a very long time because of her illness.
Mhm.
And when she awoke, there was no more cirrhosis, and to the point where the next day they went for a hike. They came into my store. They didn't tell us any of this at the time. She was fine. She did everything that the group was going to do because her abdomen was flat, it was soft, it was distended and hard the night before.
Uh-huh.
She knew she got healed, and she said to the other women, "Bigfoot healed me last night." Her thoughts, her words. And so,
Wow.
how does she know it was Bigfoot? That's what she decided had happened. Something healed her. She figured it was Bigfoot. Now, I can't deny that. I wasn't there, and maybe she was privy to some information that was given to her that we weren't, that the others weren't. And so so she was
Truly
healed
amazing.
and remained healed. Went to the doctor. The doctor said, "You do not have cirrhosis. Your blood count is normal. I cannot explain what's happened to you." And so,
Wow.
I love it. That is just, man, I just gotta applaud for that. I love hearing that. And by the way, that is Sasquatch Outpost in Bailey, Colorado. If you are in Colorado, anywhere near Denver, go visit Jim. I did, and I'm going to go back again. Except if I go out on the expedition, I can't just bring polished rocks. Sybilla,
So I'm gonna
make Rich laugh tonight. It might take me a while. All right, go ahead, Sybilla. Positive. He's a Marine. It's not easy to make these guys laugh. These guys are tough, man.
I think the most positive things that have come out of the people that I have worked with is Rich kind of touched on that, and it's that it kind of tears open, like rips the fabric of their reality to the point where they so many of them can't go back to looking at the world the same way ever again. And I kind of, although some of them have PTSD really bad and they've been traumatized, it also caused them, like he said, to look at the world in a different way and to explore those edges that we thought we knew, and I think it brings curiosity back, because sometimes as adults we lose that. And so I think the people, a positive impact is just really knowing that there is more to this reality than they really thought, before. It opened up
Sybilla, I'm sorry, go ahead, man.
it opened up that space, for them to explore the reality in a different way.
That's what I was going to ask you, Sybilla. How many people do you know that we would call sort of later on in years that were couch potatoes that went out on an expedition, and next thing you know, now every weekend they're out somewhere, they're hiking, they're healthier, they've regained wonder in their mind, because when we're kids, everything is about wonder. The world, we still don't understand the world yet. And so many people have regained this sense of freedom and exploration as a result of Sasquatch. And I think you've probably interacted with a lot of them.
I would say just as many will never go back into the woods.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Because they had the shit scared out of them?
Yeah. And once they know, now that they've seen what's out there, they don't go out and camp the way they used to, or hunt or fish the way they used to. Like some people, it has the completely opposite experience. Like, how can you unsee that? There's a 1,000-pound creature out there that can rip your limbs off, and they'll never. You just can't look at the woods the same way. Now you look in the woods and you're like looking for them. Everywhere you go.
But hunters, it's kind of a different purpose than if you're out there exploring. Like when you're hunting and you're hunting where they're hunting, and you become a competitor to prey, then you become a problem for them, and then they're looking to scare the hell out of you. But it's a great point, though.
And some people don't go back. Like some men stop hunting altogether.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah.
Sybilla, do you think we should warn people before we take them out that they may have a life-changing experience?
Absolutely.
May not be positive?
Absolutely. I always, when I was leading expeditions, I always warned people, and women in particular. I would warn women if they were on their menstrual cycle, it was probably best that they not stay in base camp, that they stay at a hotel and come do our, the daily stuff with us, but not the nightlies. Not, not unless you wanted to have a lot of attention around your tent, because it can get bad.
Well, and people want me to take
Bia's
them
like-
out with their 6 and 7-year-old kids, and I'm like, no,
I don't think it's a good idea. Yeah,
I'm
I
not
don't.
going to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I truly don't believe every Sasquatch is out to kill human beings, but it's just like human beings. I don't trust every human being. I mean, you just can't.
You can't.
So no, you can't. So you can't trust every Sasquatch either. I mean, I think if you're in a known location, like say you're going to a place that Jim goes to all the time, and every single event he's had there has been, kind of warm and fuzzy. Well, that's one thing. But if you're taking people into a territory where you haven't been before, or there've been some really aggressive interactions there, well, yeah, you need to tell people that they need to be prepared for that. I mean, because a lot of people think. I mean, I've had people leave expeditions like that night or the next morning because they're like, I didn't think this was going to happen. This is too much, and it scares the hell out of them, and they don't come back. So it's not easy though to prepare people for this stuff, because even though we're leading an expedition, you don't know what's going to happen
Or how they're going to react to it.
No,
So
no.
Nobody,
Exactly.
none of us know until it's happened to you. You don't know. One of my favorite ones about Rich is, Rich was, his encounter when he went to check the cameras. He's getting out of the car, and he sort of felt uneasy, and he's like, I feel fear right now, but I'm not giving into fear. Like Rich is a Marine, he's a law enforcement officer. I'm gonna go check my damn cameras, and then that was when he had his, basically his Class A encounter. But
Sasquatch, I'm laughing because Sasquatch is saying, you're not afraid enough yet. Just wait.
yeah, we'll fix
Just
that
wait.
problem.
I want to say
Sorry,
that
go ahead, Deb. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I also am very interested in the paranormal. And in fact, when I was in elementary school, I started a ghost club. But as DJ knows,
Oh, wow.
when I have my encounters with ghosts, it is not a good experience for me. That is where my fear is. I could probably see some, let's call them ET, because people will know what that means. I could see ET and probably be okay, but a ghost I can't even see being near me, that's a problem for
I
me.
am with you 100%. 100%.
And
Yeah. Deb's investigation of a haunted bathroom in a restaurant lasted about 30 seconds until she beat feet.
and honestly, it's just I can sense them too well. It's very uncomfortable.
Yeah. That was so awesome when you told that story on air, Deb. But Rich, before we go into kind of some of your other experiences, any positive experiences that you had or aware of friends of yours, fellow researchers, etc.?
Like Sybilla said, I think the most positive thing that comes out of this is, in this experience, is an expanded awareness. And I'll say something that, these incidents are traumatic, right?
Yeah.
But trauma is a funny thing where, trauma can defeat you or it can empower you. It depends on what you do with that trauma, is if you let it defeat you or do you conquer it and then gain great empowerment out of that, right? So it's one of those things. It's an opportunity. Everything seems to be an opportunity, right?
Mhm.
These events and these circumstances. And we live in a society that, supports a victim mentality, and it wants you to be in a situation where everyone's a victim and where trauma defeats you, right? So that then you can be, again, in a situation that you're diminished, right? And going to be more susceptible to believing what you're told or what you're programmed with, and to also obeying, and being under an authority, right? Related to everything, information, what your knowledge, how you live your life, and everything like that. And the Sasquatch thing, in a lot of people, it starts to, chip away at that. And it gives you an opportunity, really to become self-empowered and to start writing your own story and to basically creating a circumstance where the world becomes what you believe that it is based on your experience and what your circumstances are and what you actually see versus what you're told.
Well said. Well said.
LSPQ70X is asking, in the woods alone as a female. I can tell you, Sybilla, last time she was on with us, told us absolutely she took her camper out in the woods, and
for months,
does
not for a night.
Oh no, it was for 4 months, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, it reminds me of that lady in Montana.
She's
something or
badass.
other.
I'm telling you.
She's totally badass. I mean, Sybilla, I don't know what happened to fear. Like they forgot to give you some of that. You know, Rich, she was out. She had Bigfoot like banging on her trailer, and she's like, "No, I'm good." You know, she's out there for 4 months.
Quit throwing rocks at my trailer. She's telling us.
And it went
Cut that out.
She went into town, and she comes back. The trailer's still locked, but yet she finds a rock inside the trailer that was not there when she left. Rich, what's going on?
It's still here.
Well, that's just another one of those things where they're demonstrating to you that they're defying what your knowledge of physics is.
Is that it?
Right?
Yeah.
Well, plus you have the rock right there.
Yeah, there's the rock.
The rock, yeah.
It was on the floor. Like right when you stepped up into the camper, it was right there by the door, right? So I couldn't miss it.
Yeah, and then you guys interviewed the lady where it was playing with the little sort of Bigfoot trinket that was hanging from the mirror of the
her car. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would
And
get
she
into her
was-
locked car at night and move it around, take it down, you know.
She was a Coloradan, right?
Yes.
Yeah, unbelievable.
But you're Rich. What was your comment there? They're showing you something.
Yeah, they're demonstrating something to you. They want you to see that. They want you to see that they're able to defy what your knowledge of physics is, that the world actually works in a different way than you think it does, right? And they're taking advantage of that situation to show you something.
Mhm.
It's a demonstration.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
I truly think they have the ability to move through dimensions.
Mhm.
Sure.
I've heard
Yes.
that. Yeah,
Obviously.
many
Yeah.
people have.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
a really good theory that's out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you wish they were there when you lock your keys in your car at the airport, you know, and you're like, "Hey, can you just do this little thing because I left my keys in there." So
Yeah.
luckily now
I have
today
a
with the fobs, you
follow-up.
can't do that. Go ahead. Yeah, please go ahead.
So Rich, I mean, it sounds like you've definitely thought a lot about this and, just everything you're saying. So who do you think learned more? Do you think they learned more about you or did you learn more about them?
I think that they've spent a lifetime knowing what we are and what we do and who we are. So I think that these interactions are an opportunity really for us to learn something versus us to teach them anything, because I guarantee you that they live the way they do for a reason, and they don't want anything to do with the things we're doing.
That totally makes sense.
Except they seem to be curious. Some of them.
Entertainment based. At least,
Well, people say, I've had many people say to me, well, you talk about them being intelligent. They don't even build houses. They don't even, and I'm like, where are you going with?
Yeah.
Your concept of intelligence is that we know how to build a house. When you don't need a house, you don't build a house.
Right.
So could they build a house? Sure, if they needed to, but they're at such a higher plane of what they need is, I mean, when you can move into another dimension, you're here because you're choosing to be here. You can leave at any time that you want to and come back. Who needs a house? Why do we not find their bodies? Probably because they go die over there, wherever that is. And they don't die here with us because they know what we're going to do with them. If we did find a body, we're going to abuse it and desecrate it. And they don't want that happening to their loved ones. So it just doesn't happen here. So, but you tell people that, why don't we find body parts and bones? And I want to say, and I usually don't say this, but I want to say, you don't want to know the answer. You can't get the answer. So, let's move on to another question, because you're not going to accept anything that's remotely has to do with interdimensional or, vibration, but that is the way they are. I don't understand it, but that is the way they are. So,
and your colleague James Fay is very, very confident that they bury their dead. I don't know how he gets that, but I mean, he's talked to a lot of people over the years.
I wouldn't say they don't ever do that, but even that behavior, burying their dead, that's more human than animal already.
Right,
So,
which is part of your hypothesis, part of Dave's hypothesis is that. And I had a question for you guys, and now I've totally. Oh, it's about their young, their kids, their juveniles. I have heard about some of their juveniles that were basically children, human children, have told their mom and dad that they were playing with them, or they had been seen playing with them at the edge of the forest. Had you heard of that, Sybilla? And then Rich and Jim, what's your thoughts on that?
That their parents play with them, or their parents watch them play.
They play with our kids.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
I have heard of that. I have heard of, especially in really rural areas like Kentucky and Tennessee, places like that, where children actually were. I remember there was a story I was told by a man in Kentucky where they've been playing with this little, it was multiple kids were playing with this little guy, and they brought him home, and of course they were all in the house together with it, and I guess a mom came in and saw this other thing and screamed and said, get it out, get it out. So I think that's happened quite a bit, where little kids have played with other Sasquatches. Yeah.
Bia, you're picturing that right now as a mom who has a home in rural New Hampshire. What are you thinking right now?
Yikes. I would have ran.
Would have been playing with a little Bigfoot. What would your reaction have been if you would have seen him at the edge of your property? What would you?
I mean, I think I'd be scared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You would have said, what would you have said? Get away from it, or what would your?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what my reaction would be. I mean, I think I would scream, but I could potentially go silent too. So I don't know.
Deb, do you have any thoughts about that, or any questions? And well, let me ask Rich real quick, and then we can get to your question. Rich, did you hear anything about Bigfoot juveniles playing with human kids? Because it's interesting that they would, clearly the mother is aware that that's happening and is allowing it.
Well, I've obviously heard that before. I've read reports of that, and you think about it, where kids do have an expanded awareness, where they're more in the present moment, right? They're living in the present, in the now, right, where they're operating. So they're seeing the world differently than we do, because they're not brainwashed like we are yet, right? They're going to be there later, right? They're not in a system that forces you to be in the past and in the future and not in the present moment, right? You're limited where you can be in the present moment when you're an adult, because you have to have a job, you have to make money, you have to pay bills, you have all this stress and these different things that has your focus, right? So your power's being taken from you, right? You're not allowed to be in the present moment, because you have to be looking back at the past and looking into the future all the time. You're on a schedule, where kids, they don't have anything else to do but be in the present moment and enjoy that moment and to be playing in that moment. So they have a different perception, right? They're not worried about the things that we're worried about. They're not thinking about the things that we're thinking about, right? So they're maybe more accessible, right? And they can be trusted more than we can.
I know. I still have to administer the CAB 401k plan. So I'm sorry.
And they haven't heard that you don't play with little hairy kids.
Yeah, they don't learn hate, right? Kids, as far as if someone is a different skin pigmentation or a different, they're from a different country or whatever, they don't know hate. They just know, oh, there's another thing that looks, kind of like me, and I want to become friends with it. So it's all those things are taught. So I imagine they're not taught to fear that thing, that they should fear it. You know what I mean? And because they shouldn't, maybe is the answer. Debs, what question might you have for anybody on the panel, Rich or Sybilla
Uh,
or Jim?
I was going to answer that thing
Please.
about my concern isn't so much, and this is kind of tied into a question I had earlier. It wouldn't be so much about a juvenile playing with another juvenile, human, Bigfoot, whatever. My concern is that, as was said before, some of the adults may not be particularly safe, and we don't know how they would respond to encountering one of their juveniles with a human child. So that's where my concern would be. So I guess my question that ties in with that is, we know that there are stories of people being attacked in the national parks. We know people have died in really odd ways, including appearing in locations that they wouldn't have been able to get to.
Yes.
So obviously, what is the cautionary tale, so to speak? What is the warning that should be given to people who are very interested in this topic?
I love this question. I'm so glad. I literally, Deb, you read my mind. I wanted to talk. I've been wanting to talk some missing 411 with Jim. He's like a great friend, a fishing buddy of Dave Polites. So let's go around the room there, Jim. Missing 411. I'm just going to broadly just throw it at you like that.
Well, Dave and I have talked at length about these people that go missing and we can't figure out where they go, and that a lot of people want to assume it's Bigfoot. I personally don't think it is, but and I think the evidence doesn't necessarily point to Bigfoot either. Could they do that? Yes, they could. But do they do that? Do they take us, not as a matter of course? I really don't think that's the case. But and if you talk to people, I mean, Dave and I have talked with some mediums to see what people who, I feel like are on the up and up are people I trust. They're not out to take my money, or they're friends, and they have a sense that it's not Bigfoot, and they have a sense that it's not anything we even understand that's taking people, that it's entities that take people, and that come to a person in a form that they trust to take them. So there's really no way to avoid being taken, because they're going to come to you in a form that you trust and then take you away. And so, in the cases that we know of where children were taken by Bigfoot and returned, they're found alive later 10 miles away from where they disappeared. Many times they're too young to explain what happened to them.
Mm-hmm.
They can't tell you what happened to them. But in the cases where they could say something, there was a little boy in North Carolina or somewhere that was gone for 3 days, and he said a bear took care of him. Well, we know bears don't do that.
That's right.
And so how many bears do we know that take in a child and talk to it and keep it warm? And, but in that child's concept, that's the only way they could understand what had happened. And so, I contrary to what many people think, Dave does not believe that Bigfoot is responsible for all of these. He doesn't really know.
But it's a possibility. Is
that
fair?
Sure, it's a possibility. Sure, it is.
I think so.
Sure.
And Dogman perhaps as well. Who knows?
Yeah. So I'll pass it back to Sybilla and Rich, see what they
This is a fascinating topic. Sybilla, what do you think, my friend?
I think it's not one thing.
Right.
I don't think it's just one thing. Really, that's all I know. I think.
What other things could it be? What do you think?
Well, I think it could be. I think it could. Some of it could be human predation, and I think some of it could be people step into portals.
Hmm.
You know that David Paulides and Scott Carpenter shared a story about a man who stepped into or he started to step in, and something like said him gotcha, but actually missed him, and he stepped back. But it was like the place he was stepping into, it was darker. Like it was like he stepped into something, but just drew back just in time before something grabbed him. You know, so how many times has a portal opened up and someone just stepped right into it? So
And could not get out.
could not
return.
or could not find their way out.
Mhm.
Or there's a lot of the missing 411 where they hear somebody,
Yes.
they hear somebody calling for help and they can't find them. To me, that sounds totally like they're in a dimension that's very close to the one that we're in, but they can't find their way out.
Yes.
So I don't know.
If you when you enter a certain area, you're quite close, even by the trail, and they're like, I can hear them, but they're not there. Even in a field, I think Dave talked about.
And I've known
it's like it's right there.
Yeah, and I've known a couple of people that have gone on a walk in an area that they know very, very well and find themselves lost in it, like even close to their home, find themselves lost in it, and they're wandering around and they don't know where they are or how they got turned around. And then eventually they find themselves miles away from where the direction they thought they were going, like totally disoriented. So, and these are people that know the property really well. Like, so how does that stuff happen? So I just think it's not just one thing. I think it's a whole bunch of different things.
Yeah. I just pulled up the name of, this is another colleague of yours. His name is Terry Wendell from Rock Hill Bigfoot in South Carolina. And, they were in an area where you've spent a lot of time, Sybilla, in Alabama. They won't tell where. They wrote a book about it, but I've heard an EMT and I think one other person that was on that expedition with Terry, and they said from their base camp with night vision, they could see one of their, I think they had 3 teams out. They were looking for Bigfoot. That was the purpose of it. And they walked into a portal and they're like, dude, these guys just, and they said, all right, back up straight the way we came. Just back up. And then they could see them again. And I've heard Terry tell that story on this show. And then I heard that EMT from Atlanta tell it on another show. So, and it's in their book that they wrote. So it's really crazy. But let's keep going around. Be a missing 401. You and I have done at least 2 shows on this now.
Right. And I would say I also agree that some of them make more sense, especially that boy. I believe that little boy had lost 10 pounds or something, and it doesn't appear that he was. Do you remember that one?
I think that was in Rich's state. I think that one might have happened in Washington when they found that kid. That one, I think, might have been actually Bigfoot related.
I think so too. And that's the way he described it. So I feel like some of them make me feel like it's one versus like a UFO. So I do feel like it not everything is just one thing. So I do feel that each story kind of gives me a different, just a different view on what it is.
Yeah. And we're going to go to you right now, Debs, but the thing that chills you, and I think this is going to be very resonant with Jim, and I don't know how much Rich has heard of these, but where they're talking about you're walking on a trail, it's almost like the one with Stacey Harris, right? Where you're looking at the person and they're just gone. And it's like there's, that FBI agent, John D'Souza, says like there's not enough time physically for someone to be removed from that space without the mom, the dad, or one of the siblings knowing about it. And it's just it's chilling that somebody could go missing in that way, the way that Stacey Harris did. Dave has told the Stacey Harris, everybody's told that after Dave did the Stacey Harris case there in Yosemite, where she's taking a photo of that old man. She walks down towards the water and she's gone. And they would not give Dave the file. Meaning the park officials, and there's not a trace of her, not her backpack. They were on horseback, so clearly she had some gear with her. She had her camera, and all they found is a lens cap and nothing else. So
right, and then there was one. Sorry, and then there was one that was found like in between 2 like rocks or something. That it was almost that one was kind of freaky because that kind of it wasn't something that you can just get into, that they were just kind of placed there.
Without climbing gear. That's what Deb was talking about. They're finding some of these bodies in places that without technical climbing gear, you could not get to. So how the hell did they end up there? And by the way, I am very, very confident, not as confident as the Patty film that I'm 100% confident, not a zero, not a shred of doubt. I'm very, very confident that Bigfoot, Sasquatch has been abducted by UFOs just like humans had. Deb, go ahead, my friend.
Well, what did you want me to add?
No, I feel about missing 411. If there's any hypotheses that resonate with you, anything.
I mean, I definitely think it's multiple things, including something that we don't talk about enough, but just humans that have gone, that are just out there in the woods, off the grid, and maybe been for a long time. There's stories of people being followed by strange people. There's also stories of people who have something happen to them that makes them kind of go off the rails, and they're out there without anyone around to help them get back on track. So there's definitely a lot of things that are happening, but I would say, if I had to say what my instinct is, there's definitely an issue with adolescent Bigfoot that we should be concerned about, especially adolescent. I don't know. Sometimes I just have to say what my instincts are saying, and there should be some concern there.
Yeah, there's no question that that's got to be a part of it. Just they're maybe not a predominant thing, but there's no question it's got to be at least a sliver in there somewhere of it. I mean, you're going to have, just like Sybilla said, you're going to have humans that are just totally out of it. That are going to do criminal things, people that Rich would have had arrested and thrown in jail. And there probably are Sasquatch that are exactly like that. Rich, missing 411 portals, talk to me.
I think it's probably a lot of different things. Some of them are just accidents or people get lost. Other ones are potentially predation by other humans, foul play. Where another possibility is something, where it may lend to what Sasquatch is and where it's from, as well as possibly some of the missing cases. I don't know if you've ever heard the term a Beyoul before.
No.
Beyoul.
Yeah. No.
Okay. It's from the mystic side of Tibetan Buddhism, where there's manuscripts that exist related to locations of places in the Himalayan mountains, specifically in certain valleys, where they have been able to find out and then documented where they say that two worlds overlap in certain locations. And it may be that these places, according to their texts, are guarded by deities or beings, that can take the form of weather events or, beings like a Sasquatch or something like that guards the entrances to these places. And it may be that sometimes people just happen to wander into these things, or they're taken into them. And also you have to consider that if there's Bigfoot out there, there's likely several other entities that are utilizing the same pathways and the same access points to get in here that Bigfoot is. And some of them may be dangerous, or they may be here to hunt humans or to take humans. And it may not be Bigfoot at all, or it may be that Bigfoots are bringing some of the remains of these people back after they wander and get into these things, or disappear and perish in these places. But there's a high potential for this Beyoul thing, and basically what it is a portal to another world, essentially, where, I can tell you that I had an experience in the Olympic Peninsula here in the Hamahama area, where I was actually recovering a memory card of a camera that I had Sasquatch pictures on, and that I recovered DNA ultimately off this camera. But when I was leaving that site that day after the recovery of that memory card, we were leaving that area, which is a north-south type of thing on a ridge line. And we were going to side hill off of it to it would have been the east, and try to intersect another trail to save some time. It was bad weather. So we started moving in this direction, and we were following the GPS trying to get to this finger. And we just kept going and going, and we never got to this spot. So finally, after side hilling all this time, our ankles were hurting. I was like, let's just go back to the top and get out of here. So we did, and we crossed back over. We thought we ended up in a location that we'd never seen before. And according to the GPS, we were right on track of where we were supposed to be going, but it wasn't where we were supposed to be going. So we kind of got our bearings and got a compass out and got rid of the electronics, found out that we were going off in another direction, taking us into another place that we had never been before. And if we would have kept going, we would have dropped down to the west into a really bad terrain and really brushy area that we potentially could have gotten lost in and not been able to find our way back.
Wow.
And it was kind of confusing because we didn't understand how we got to where we were. Right? We didn't know it. It's like almost like something was trying to get us lost. And so,
That's scary.
almost
It
like
is
we got
scary.
teleported sort of into some place that we didn't recognize and weren't familiar with. And so I think that kind of stuff can happen. And I think that these areas where you may have two worlds overlapped probably do exist. And they don't just exist in the Himalayas. I think they probably exist all over the place. In mountainous regions in particular, there's a lot of minerals, there's a lot of water, and a lot of energy and different things related to these areas where these vortexes and these portals and different things, they may be in specific areas where these Bigfoots happen to be around. And it may be that these Bigfoots have a role of guarding the entrances, right? Keepers more or less into these areas where some of these times, sometimes, people have violent encounters where they get pushed out of areas very strongly, right? It may be that they're being prevented from wandering into one of these spots.
Wow.
For their own protection.
Possibly.
DJ, can I just bring up the zoo hypothesis?
Yes, ma'am. Please.
Okay, so if you guys go down the UAP rabbit hole, one of the hypotheses is that the Earth is basically a zoo. And
Sure is.
this discussion that we're having brings this to mind. And one thing that we go back and forth on, at least I do, is like which came first, the Bigfoot or the human, And I honestly think that there is a potential that there's a lot of experimentation that has happened, and that is why both Bigfoot and humans are being taken, brought back. So I don't know. I just wanted to throw that out there for food for thought.
Yeah, and the other thing, I mean, we've heard of the drop-offs. I mean, Dave profiled this in Missing 411, the UFO connection, and essentially the theory is that sometimes when UAP return abductees back to Earth, it's not exactly where you want to be. The one gentleman from Idaho, he ended up on a hillside relatively close to where they were looking for him and where he went missing. But and Travis Walton was several miles, away from town when he was returned. And that sometimes they're returned in places that it turns out you would need, as we said, complex climbing gear, ropes and bolts and carabiners and the whole 9 yards. So physically, we can't understand how that person's body got there. But if you put the UAP into context, then that's possible. And you know what? Did they walk through a portal and get abducted through there and return through another means? Maybe. Did they get taken by a ship like that moose? And you know what? That whole hypothesis, Jim, with the moose, if they went and took that elk that gentleman was hunting,
the elk that ran into the tree.
Yeah. If they took the elk, why wouldn't you take if you're a higher intelligence, why would you not take one of these Sasquatch and study it? Like, you'd have to be out of your mind. You'd have to want to know, like, the abilities, their night vision, the whole 9 yards, all the things that they can do.
Unless the Sasquatch came from them, and so they know very well what they can do.
It could be.
But the scary thing about these portals, the portal concept is not knowing where they are, that you could just walk right into it.
Yes.
Without intending to. I have a friend here. Oh,
sorry.
It's all right.
I'll lower it. I'm sorry it does that. Go ahead.
I figured you were just shutting me up. So
No, I'm not shutting you up. Please continue.
so a friend was working up in the Tetons at a lodge, and she and her roommate went for a hike. There was a woman shaman who was there that recommended them that they go to this particular trail. They went on the trail. They're hiking along. She's behind her friend, and all of a sudden she's in another place. And she said, where the place, she said, I was inside of a tree. And I said, like inside of a tree? She goes, well, like under the branches or something of a giant tree. And there were flowers in there she'd never seen before. There were lights blinking that she didn't know what they were. And so she's trying to get out. I mean, that was her impulse, her instinct was to get out. And so she could see these openings in these branches or roots, whatever they were, and she'd climb towards it, and then there would be no exit when she got there. And so in her mind, she was hours trying to find her way out. And the whole time she's in there, she heard this voice speaking to her in riddles. And I thought, that's bizarre. I said, well, what did the voice sound like? And she said, well, she said, sounds ridiculous to say it, but it sounds like what a fox would sound like if it could speak.
A fox?
Yeah.
Wow.
And so that was how she described it. And so she eventually managed to get out and found herself back on the trail again, even though this space was nowhere near the trail. It was not there. So she finds herself back on the trail and her friend is gone. So she went back to the lodge. She walks in her room and her friend goes, oh my God, where in the world have you been? We're calling search and rescue. And it had been hours and hours and hours that she'd been missing.
Oh my God.
And she just showed up, and so she looks, but she wasn't expecting it. She just, 1 minute she's on the trail following her friend. The next minute she's in this side dimension.
What extricated her from that tree? Did it just happen?
She finally found a gap that didn't close up and she got out. But imagine people who never get out.
Right.
That are there forever or until they die or whatever. And so, and I believe her 100%. She is not a liar. She doesn't make things up. And she had friends that could corroborate the fact that she disappeared. She said her friend turned around and said, you were gone. I didn't know where you were. And so that's the frightening part to me, is that any one of us apparently could step into one of these places without ever knowing how we got there.
I think about this all the time when I'm on the trail, because I went to a new hike this weekend near Monument Rock. You know where Monument is, Jim? So yeah, I was like, I touched that rock and I'm like, oh shit, there's something gonna happen here. You know what I mean? I saw the quartz in there, Sybilla. I was like, it was really freaky, man. I'll tell you what, this has been all kinds of fun. I could talk to you guys all night. We're gonna have to save it for later. But Jim, can you promo what you guys have coming up on Sasquatch Beyond the Outpost?
Well, we're always looking for people that we can interview who have had some kind of an experience with Sasquatch. And both Sybilla and I have a heart particularly to talk to people who've been traumatized by their experience, so that, we can help them understand what happened if we can. But for many people, just talking about it is therapeutic. And
we don't shy away from the paranormal aspects either.
So we would love if any of your listeners have an experience like that and would like to talk to us. Whether or not you come on the podcast, that's irrelevant. We would still like to talk to you. And so we're always looking for people who are interested in that. And so that's our goal for the podcast. And I have something I need to talk to Rich about afterwards. So maybe we can connect after we get off the show here. And I have a question for you. So,
Sybilla, I know are you doing a separate show, or is it just you and Jim on this one program? I think you have your own show as well, right?
Yeah, I have a Sketching Encounters
Okay.
channel, and I'll probably be posting. I'm just finishing up with editing a part 2 for Joe Kesky. Joe Kesky has the whole thing, the Sasquatch, UFO,
Mm-hmm.
orbs, you name it. So we're on part 2. I'll probably upload that Friday.
Where was his experience with Sasquatch?
Northern Ohio.
Oh wow! Well, man, what a cool, great
Yeah.
area, man. Great
Yeah.
forest up there.
Yes, the Cuyahoga. Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
I love it. Debs, I know if you're on a show, and Bia, if you're on a show, it's going to be with me. we got UFOs this coming week with our next. Actually, we have Christopher Sharp on Sunday. Liberation Times is going to talk about. He's a British guy who's connected to all the UAP businesses going. He knows more about what's going on in the Pentagon than I do. Rich, what do you got? Do you have any other interviews coming up? What are you up to? What's going on with your research, etc.?
I don't do a lot of research. I do a little bit around here, and I go out a little bit, but there's going to be some more stuff coming out on Sailor Sasquatch. I don't know if you guys know who they are.
Yes.
Yes,
We're going to do 3 or 4 different installments. And then there's also going to be something on History Channel coming. About a year ago, I worked with a production company that was trying to get a contract with History Channel related to a new series. So we did 4 hours of filming and did a sizzle reel. So they ended up getting a contract. So I did filming with them about 6 months after that for that show, which is going to come out in January. But then they're going to release. They sold them the sizzle reel footage too. And something is going to come out related to that. I have no idea what it is. There's going to be at least a trailer or a commercial coming out anytime. Could be this month, related to the filming that we did up here about a year ago. And I have no idea what that's going to be or what it all is. A short thing. I don't know.
Well, that's exciting.
Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be. It's not just a Bigfoot show. It's going to have alien abduction encounters related to it too. There's going to be 8 episodes, I think, where they're going to feature a few interviews in each episode. So I don't even know what it's going to be called. I know that the launch date is supposed to be January, but there's been no advertisement of it yet. So I don't really know. I don't even know what it's called.
If you could head out into the woods this weekend, Rich, and you're going out basically to do a solo expedition, what would your greatest hope be to experience what?
Well, I don't know. I don't really care, to be honest with you, as far as anything happening. Nothing really surprises me or gets me that excited about it anymore, to be honest. I'm not trying to see one again. If it happened, it happened. It would happen. I mean, I think that I don't have a whole lot more questions related to it.
Mm-hmm.
I know what I know. I'm pretty comfortable with it at this point. And whatever could happen, I would just, be excited to embrace it and see where it would lead me, to be honest with you.
Your encounter, Jim, if you're going out this weekend, what do you want it to be?
What do I want it to be? Whatever you want, whenever something happens, it's not going to be what you expected, I'm sure. So
we're dreaming here. Come on. This is, we're opening the.
Here's what I want. If I could dream, is a Sasquatch would somehow instruct me on how to communicate with them.
That would be mine.
Fair. That's fair.
Yeah. That would be mine as well. So that we could actually learn about them. We'd actually know more about where they came from and what their philosophies are and why they're here. And
if they have
I think they could impart so much knowledge to us, and I'd love to know what that is.
Amen. Yeah.
Bia, what would you want to happen?
Well, I'd want to be invisible, first of all, and then observe them.
Yeah. Okay. So you've got the Harry Potter cloak of
Yeah, like I'm gonna-
invisibility.
Yeah,
Yes.
there you go.
Yeah.
Invisibility cloak.
And what would you want to do if
I'd
you
want to observe like a Bigfoot, but just so that they couldn't see me, that I would just be able to observe them.
okay
Hmm.
and just see what they do.
Yeah.
So you just
see
want
how-
to have
I
that
just want to
kind
be
of-
nosy, okay? Just want to
Okay.
be nosy.
That's fair. Deb, other than babysitting for one, what would you,
How'd you know I was going to say that?
because I know you for, since 2021. Come on. We're
Yeah.
going on
Well,
5 years now.
I would like to see how do I put this? The congregation of entities that occurs and how they interact with each
Okay. So you mean them interacting with another intelligence?
Yes, because
Okay.
as we have implied and said there are other things going on. I didn't even get to ask about the giant. I was so curious about the giants, but yes, there's a lot going
They're
on.
doing very well this year. They're ahead of the Cowboys. So I can talk trash to Sybilla. Go ahead.
But I will
yeah.
offer babysitting to the other entities.
Okay. And for me, I think it's very much, I'm very kind of in the Sybilla and Jim camp. It would kind of be communication so I could try to understand what they know about their species, if there's an oral history and tradition that they're following, if they're aware of other tangential species, because obviously they don't all look the same. There's bigger and smaller. So I kind of want to know what they know about their own history, and then obviously what they think about us, because I think everybody on the panel that's kind of studied this a little bit knows that they've probably figured out that we're dangerous, and that in general they need to stay away from us, except where they don't, which is what Sybilla and Jim talked about. These people that obviously there's a mother Sasquatch that is allowing their juvenile to play with the human. So those things have happened, and we've heard, but for the most part, they figured out that we're pretty dangerous. So, thank you very much, guys. It was a pleasure having you on tonight. Rich, thank you. It was a pleasure to finally get to speak with you. And boy, I got to book Sybilla and Jim on here again.
Absolutely. I'll be happy to come back.
All right, everybody. Rich, thank you, buddy.
No
All right.
problem.
Thank
Right.
you.
Bye.
right.
Thank
Thank you guys.
On
Y'all have a good
behalf- Go ahead.
Y'all have a great evening, the rest of everybody.
You
Thank
too down
you,
there.
you
Take
too.
care.
And a Merry
Texas.
Christmas too.
Texas. Merry Christmas, everybody. On behalf of everybody on the panel, thank you, everybody. Jules in the chat and everybody. Peace out, one love, and we will see you down the road.